Hi boys and girls, welcome back. It's great to see you again. I have a fun lesson for you today. I'm outside, as you can see. This is my yard. I am going to go out on a little adventure and I thought maybe you could come along. So come along with me and we'll see what we can find. I'm gonna walk down here, down my steps. I have to look so I don't fall. I have something I want to pick. Can you guess what it is if I'm gonna pick it and I'm outside? I'm gonna flip the camera around so you can see. Here it is. Do you know what these pretty flowers are called? These are flowers that come up every spring. They're called daffodils. They're one of my favorites. So I'm gonna pick one of these. Now if you see these outside and they're in your own yard, you can ask a grown-up if you're allowed to pick them. Look how beautiful that is. And this is my favorite color. Do you have a favorite color? Oh, I want to introduce you to somebody. Sniffers! Emmett! Say hi! And then there's our kitty cat. That's Avon. All right, we're going to go back up on the porch again. So come with me. Oh, there's some pretty flowers here too. I'm not going to pick those. Sniffers. All right, now if you don't have any flowers at home, you can always use flowers that aren't real. My husband actually made this flower out of metal. This would be a sculpture. He made this out of metal. Isn't that pretty? So what we're doing today is we're setting up a still life. A still life is a group of objects that an artist sets up so that they can draw or paint it. So you can either use something that you find in nature, like a real flower or something else that you find, or find something in your house. So boys and girls, I want to show you some famous still life paintings here on my computer. There are a lot here to pick from, but if you had to guess one of the main subjects that artists chose in the past for a still life, what would you guess? What is the object that you see most commonly here in all these pictures? If you said fruit, then you were right. A lot of artists chose fruit as their subject matter when they were painting a still life. So if you have fruit at home, you could get a bowl and put apples and oranges or bananas or strawberries, or if you have vegetables, you can put vegetables in a bowl. I'm going to click on one of these examples. Let's see about this one. Let's see if we can get a closer look. Look at those beautiful colors. That's what's great about fruit and vegetables. They have the most beautiful colors. So if you have any fruits and vegetables at home, they would be perfect for a still life. Now let's say that you don't have any flowers in your yard and you just ate your last banana and you're not going to be going to the grocery store for a while because you're socially distancing. What you could do is find some cool objects in your house. I have this vase that I really like. So I set the vase up and now I'm going to grab a plant. I have a fake plant here that I'm going to set up next to it. It's a little bit dusty. I should probably dust it off a little. And then maybe you'll have something like a cute little stuffed animal. Hi there. Stick him in. And now I have a still life. So basically a still life is just a group of objects. You can pick any objects that you want. Anything fun. You can pick something from outside. The sky's the limit. This is your creation. So you pick objects that you would like to draw. I'm going to give you some time to go ahead and choose your objects so you can pause the video, pick something. I would say at least 3 items, set them up, in a spot where you have space to draw, and then I want you to find a pencil and then some crayons or colored pencils, or if you have watercolors, that would be great. So go ahead, pause the video, grab your materials, get a piece of paper, and I'll see you back here in a few minutes. Hi boys and girls, hopefully you grabbed your things. I have my 3 different still lifes set up here to show you, and then I'm going to decide which one I'm going to draw today. So I want to show you my 3, and then maybe you can help me decide which one to pick. So here's my first one. This is the still life with the roses that are made of metal. These aren't real. These are the ones that my husband made, and it has a yellow one in here too. This one was a gift that he gave me for our anniversary, and it's in a ceramic vase that was given to me by my art teacher from high school. So it's kind of a sentimental still life. So that's my first example. My second one is the one with the objects that you watched me set up a few minutes ago. And while you were grabbing your things, I grabbed a bowl of fruit. So I have the daffodil that I picked outside, and I put it in a mason jar filled with water. And I have a bowl, and I like this bowl because it has colorful stripes on it. And I have some fruit. I have oranges and some bananas that are getting a little bit brown. So I have to decide which one I want to draw from. So I'm not really sure. Which one do you like best? So I'll draw this one. And we're going to talk about the elements of design today. The elements of design include things that you already know about. And they're things that we talk about in art. You already have learned about them. So they're going to be things that you already know. You already know how to do them. We're just going to talk about them a little bit differently. The first one is line. We talk about line all the time. Line is one of the most important things. As you know, lines are the basic building blocks of any drawing. When we put lines together, we can make any shape. You already know that. So all drawings are made up of shapes. So when I begin to draw, I first look at the objects that I'm drawing, and I start to think about their shapes. So if I were going to look at the plant first, and I were going to look at the base of the plant, I would look at that shape and I would say to myself, that looks like a square. It's actually a cube. A 3-dimensional square is a cube. So I know that I'm going to start by drawing a square shape. And I'm going to show you how to do that all step by step. But your shapes are going to be different depending on the objects that you chose. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to begin my drawing. So I'm going to get my paper and my pencil. Hopefully you have all of your materials ready. So let's get ready to draw together. Hi boys and girls, so we decided on the middle still life. I'm going to get started on the drawing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here on the objects and talk to you a little bit about the shapes before we get started. First of all, anytime you set up objects for still life, you want to try to find shapes that are different heights. So you can see that the vase is the highest object, and then the stuffed animal is the shortest object, and then the plant is kind of in between. Also, I have objects that are different colors. I have some objects that are lighter, some objects that are darker, and I also have objects that have different patterns and colors on them. So we'll talk about all of those things later, but first I'm going to look at the shapes. Anytime you start a drawing, you want to first look at the shapes, and then you're going to use lines to first draw those shapes. Okay, boys and girls, so here's my paper that I'm drawing on. I have a pencil ready to go. Before I start drawing a still life, what I do is I look at the objects and how they're oriented, and then I decide which way I'm going to put my paper. So if I take a close-up look again at my objects, I see that the orientation is more of a landscape because they're spread out horizontally. So instead of having my paper portrait orientation like this, I'm going to make sure that I turn my paper this way because that lends itself more to the composition. So before I get started, I try to lightly sketch in my shape. So I'm going to start with the center shape, which is the stuffed animal, and I'm going to start with the head. So I'll just lightly sketch in an oval shape for the head, and then I'm going to sketch in a square shape for the pot that the plant is in, and then I'm going to sketch the vase shape, and I would call that more of like an oval shape. So I'll go ahead and I'll sketch those shapes in first using lines, and then after that's all placed, then I'll start developing the shapes a little bit more with a little more detail. Now I'm constantly looking at my shape, and then I'm looking back up at my object. Now I know that that stuffed animal's head's right in the middle, and I know the vase is higher, so I have to make sure that I have room above the stuffed animal's head. So I know not to make the stuffed animal way up here at the top of my paper, because the vase has to be taller. So I started my head here in the center, and now I look at the relationship of the head to the square pot. And I notice that if it were a clock, that square would be at 5 o'clock compared to where the oval is. So that would be right about here. So I'm going to sketch in the square shape. Right about here. And then my vase, if I look carefully, my vase is behind my stuffed animal. I can't see the right side of the vase, I can only see the left side. So that's why it's really important that you focus on the lines when you're drawing. That's the most basic element. So I'm just looking at the lines in all of the shapes. So I know what the shape of the whole vase is, but I can only see the left side of the vase. So I don't have to draw the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here and continue just sort of blocking out these shapes. And then turn the video back on once I have a little more done. Okay, so I have some basic shapes sketched in here, and I want to show you something and see if you can find my mistake. So this is still life that I'm looking at, and here is my sketch so far. And obviously I don't have the leaves in there yet, but can you see anything that I can fix right now? I'm going to show you the still life again. It has to do with the vase. I want you to look at how tall the stuffed animal is, and then I want you to look at how tall the vase is. And this is something that I do when I'm drawing. I'm constantly comparing the sizes of things. And we've talked about proportion before, and I showed you that whole lesson on proportion, and I showed you how when kindergartners are drawing pumpkins, they don't have the developmental skills yet to understand that the size of the stem has to fit the size of the pumpkin. And sometimes they draw the stem super duper big, and it looks really funny, and we laugh about that. But now that we're in 5th and 6th grade, we understand that the stem has to fit the size of the pumpkin itself. So that rectangle that we put on top of the circle has to be in proportion. So we're constantly looking and comparing the sizes of things. So if I look at the neck of the vase, which is that skinny part on the top, and I look at how high it is compared to the ear on my stuffed animal, I want you to look at that. And now when I put the camera back down on my drawing, I want you to look at how high the vase is. Not quite high enough. Do you see that? So what I have to do now is I have to adjust my drawing so that the neck of the vase is taller. Now I did that on purpose so that I could show you. And this is what artists do. They're constantly comparing the sizes of things and how the shapes relate to each other. And this is how you become a better drawer, and this is why erasers were invented. So don't feel like if you're erasing that you're not a good drawer. You're actually a good drawer if you erase a lot. So now, if I scan back up here to my still life, now I have my vase in proportion to my stuffed animal. So I'm going to continue working on that. You go ahead, I'm going to stop the video. You go ahead and you start sketching in all of your shapes. And then I'll talk to you in a little bit about adding the details. Okay, boys and girls, so we've talked about line and shape, two of the elements of design. We're going to talk about pattern, texture, and color next. So at the very end, when you're all done sketching out your still life, you can add color with whatever materials that you have. You can use colored pencils or crayon or paint. I'm not going to spend the time coloring mine on the video. You're going to do that on your own, but I do want to talk about texture and pattern. So let's see where we can see or find some texture and pattern in this still life. And this is one of the reasons why I picked the one in the center, because it had all of the elements that I wanted to talk to you about. If we look at the plant, we could find pattern on the pot, and you'll notice that it has a pattern of little squares or rectangles there all over the base. So you can go ahead, if your objects has a pattern on it, you can go ahead and sketch that in. Now that would take a while for me to do, and they're evenly spaced, so I'd really have to take my time on that. So I would go ahead and add that pattern in, and then look at the pattern on that vase on the left. That's really intricate, so that would take a lot of time too, and I can just do that with my color. If I don't want to draw that all in first, I can just use my crayons or whatever I want. If I was painting, I could just paint that on. So that's what artists look at when they're putting together a still life. They add interest by looking at pattern, texture, and color. So this is an exercise in really looking at objects, and this is how artists learn how to draw realistically. Now when you're adding color, let's look at these leaves for example. We know that leaves are green, but look at all the different shades of green when you look at these leaves. There's so many different shades of green. So that's why when you get, say for instance, a set of paints, it might have 3 different shades of green. Or if you get a set of colored pencils, you might have 5 different shades of green. And then you can also use yellow and white to add in, or brown, and blend those colors together. Because you can see there's some dark green down in here where it's in shadow, and up here it's a little bit lighter, over here it's lighter. And artists will make it look more realistic by looking at exactly what color they see in different places. So like right here you can see there's a lighter part of the leaf, but this part of the leaf right in front is darker. So artists really look at every single part of what they're drawing, and they try to make the color match exactly what they're seeing. So try to, when you're drawing your still life, really take notice of all those little details. Boys and girls, I'm starting to add a little bit of color in my drawing here, and I just wanted to show you some blending quickly before I finish up. Remember, you can do shading and blending. You can go from dark to light by varying the pressure that you're using with your pencil. So I'm pressing a little bit harder down here where it would be darker in shadow. And then as I move up the leaf where there would be more light, I'm using less pressure. And remember, we do that gradually. We don't want to see where it stops and starts going from light to dark. So the value changes gradually. I can also take another color, maybe like brown, or you can use yellow or red, and you can add another color on there, and you can layer it. That's blending. So you can play around with color. Colored pencil works nicely when you're trying to blend. Watercolor, if you have them, whatever you have at home. If you don't have colored pencils at home, you can use markers, crayons. Crayons blend nicely as well. If you don't have any of those, you can do a nice pencil drawing. You can show lights and darks by varying the pressure that you use with your pencil. Now, it's not required, but if you would like to share your drawing with me, you can go to your email, find that email that I sent you with the Flipgrid link, go to the Flipgrid, click on it, and then just find the big green plus sign. Click on the plus sign, and then you can record a short video. You don't even have to talk if you don't want to. You can just hold up your drawing and show it to me if you want to share it with me. You don't have to. It's not required, but I would love to see it. And I hope you have fun doing this project. And I will see you next time we get together. Miss you guys. Bye for now. Here's an update, boys and girls. I'm finished with my drawing. If you want to see it, you have to go to Flipgrid. I'll give you a little sneak peek. That's it. Okay, go to Flipgrid so you can see it. Bye.